Hey y'all, welcome to my channel if you're new and welcome back if you're returning. So if you caught my live last night, then you know I told you that my homegirl has sent me a text message saying that I needed to get into what is it called, the Tiger King. And I was like, okay, I don't know, but on my live I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and watch it, and then we gonna talk about it. So here we are, it is time to talk about it. I have been up since last night. I watched every episode, and I will say the first episode I was just like, oh, this is boring, I'm not gonna make it. Probably halfway partially into the second episode, I was like, this might be about something. This is real bizarre, it's real crazy. But after the second episode, it was like I just kept on clicking. I kept clicking. Next episode, next episode, next episode, just kept going. So I made it all the way to the end, and here we are. I don't know what I'm looking at. It's crazy. If y'all have not seen the show, we about to talk about it. I'm not going to do a recap of who everybody is because y'all should already know. If you don't know, it's insane. I'm sitting here watching. I'm like, what in the Robert Harvey Weinstein Kelly is going on here? This is, okay. We got some major players. One of the major players, his name is Joe Exotic. So Joe Exotic has this little thing. I'm gonna tell you what tripped me out. Has a little zoo. What tripped me out about Joe? I was like, okay, so what Joe is doing is he's going and scouting young guys, little young boys, get them while they're young. And Joe is gay. But the boys that he's getting, they're not. But they're playing this role like they are. You know how they say gay for pay? That's what I think is going on here. So Joe has these two young boys, and he's done turned them into what he wanted them to be. All I'm wondering through this whole thing, what is going on with their teeth? Y'all remember, what's this boy's name? I wrote down some notes, y'all. John. John's teeth, it's like every episode he's getting, he has less and less fulfillment in his mouth. I'm sitting here watching. First it started, John had like a full set. Well, they did, spoke to him after. He was missing like one whole side. I was like, oh, what's going on with his mouth? He got the MM, y'all know, the meth mouth. But, all of a sudden they go back to like one of these crazy videos. What's the Joe keeps doing these videos? He's singing. I'm like, this is too good for TV. They are really acting, but then I'm like, no, they're really not acting. This is legit stuff that went down. But anyway, John's missing most of his teeth. First he started with his teeth, then he's missing half of them. Then by the last scene, he was up there getting his tattoo cover because that tattoo he had with Joey's name on it. How you get your tattoo cover, but we still see the tattoo? Like, they should have repositioned the bull somewhere. And I was wondering through this whole thing, like, at what point did John start feeling like he got betrayed? Because I think when Joe brought on Travis, that's when John was like, okay, you know what, I see you, I'm gonna get you, and I'm gonna be messing with me some women on the side. Messed around and got the little cashier girl pregnant, but and I don't know what she was doing, because that's your boss's man. So okay, here we are. But speaking of Travis, they're talking about Joe likes them all big, and what do you say, big and buff and muscly? I didn't see no muscles. They were, just regular, nice looking guys, whatever. But I didn't see anything special. But the one thing I did notice is that they were super young. So he got them while they were young so he could manipulate them and make them do what he wanted them to do. Joe is not going for men his age or older men. Joe wants the pretty little young things, which, a lot of them do, because his homeboy, what's his name? Oh, Doc Anthony. Doc Anthony liked him young too. We see more Harvey, Robert Kelly Weinstein stuff going on. I was like, okay, so, but the difference is, I like the way that Joe had his people, but they were like more trailer park level. Doc Anthony was a little bit more high class. Doc Anthony was like, hey, if you bust that thing wide open, you might get you a house. Like, I'm talking about, they had big houses. I don't know who was in the houses with them because they were his women, but they all had houses. So he's like, okay, you give me that, I give you a house. And I guess that's how they exchanged that thing. It was a little bit different with Joe. With Joe, we all gonna live in the same trailer, and it's not gonna be that much space, and it's not gonna be that big. And one thing I hated is I saw, and it was episode 2. I want to say it was episode 2. And I was like, okay, I see what Joe is doing. Joe got these boys up here. Travis was blasted out of his mind. He was sitting there rubbing the cat all fast, and his eyes were like, it was like he was looking at something that was funny, but that was his face. it just stayed there. He never changed. So it looked like you caught him in the middle of a laugh, but there was no laughing to be done. He was just staring off in space. I was like, oh, this boy's high as a kite. And they got him on camera like this. And he's a young dude. Like, I just started feeling bad. And then, you know, something else that caught me off guard is when they did the little, you know, they had the little moment where they were talking. And Travis said, it's beautiful here. It's a dream. It's this, it's that. And then he just paused. And you could see the sadness in him. I was like, Joe is holding these men hostage. Like, okay, like you, what? Okay. And his eyes read, help me, help me. Like, you know, you could see it in his face. He was just, that part bothered me. And then, you know, they said it was an accident how he blew his brains out. Okay, maybe it was a fluke. It might have been a fluke, but to me, the way he seemed, he needed a way out. And he was not happy with Joe. He was just high with Joe, so he wasn't able to deal with what was really going on. But fortunately, John realized, you know, it cost John all his teeth, but at some point he realized, this is not where I need to be. I'm up out of here. And you could tell when it came time for trial how everyone turned on Joe. You could tell that he burned a whole bunch of bridges, and people just didn't feel that power to stand up to him when he had his sanctuary, or whatever they want to call the zoo, and he was running things. Everyone was sitting there bowing down, but as soon as the law came involved and they felt like they had an upper hand over Joe, they overtook him. Let's talk about some facts. Fact number one. Joe burnt down his own, he blew up his own little recording studio. He did that. He did every bit of that. And I don't know how they got him on camera. They tried to blame the other guy. It wasn't him. It was Joe. Joe blew it up because they had the little hidden camera inside the lawyer's office where he was like, oh boy has all the rights over you. Where's this footage? Joe said, well, it's in my studio. The lawyer was like, well, all right, well, you know what you got to do. And Joe was like, say no more. I know what I got to do. Another fact, Joe did not put out a quote-unquote hit on Carol. That's not what happened. He's been talking about getting rid of Carol his whole career. Like, everything has been about, he just is a talker. But what happened was you had Jeff slide in, and Jeff saw an opportunity, so Jeff snatched it from him. And in the last episode, it was funny because Jeff sat there. He was like, you know, they're trying to say I set him up to take his stuff. And then in the very next breath was like, well, I mean, I did kind of give him the ideas and planted evidence and pushed him forward in what he was already saying. Because I wanted to take his zoo, but, you know, I didn't set him up. Oh, okay. So Jeff should be in there with Joe. He should be right there with Joe, locked up, because Jeff was the mastermind behind this. And I'm telling you, what's that other guy's name? Tim Stark. Tim Stark, we knew that was the competition. Tim is the one who kind of put the idea to Jeff. I think Tim is the one who put Jeff on to Joe's scent. He put him on the scent because he was like, Joe is just a hillbilly, you know, he ain't that bright. He's bright in where he's bright at, but he talks a lot. And he doesn't necessarily mean what he's saying, but he just runs his mouth. So we can use that to, you know, use it against him, set him up, snatch his zoo away from him, and then we take over and we become the zoo kingpins. That was the plan. So I think, you know, Jeff saw, because Jeff is a swindler, so he saw the end. He went in there and he you know, he bamboozled him and he snatched his stuff right out from under him. Unfortunately, Joe is in jail now because of that. Just like when they said Joe was like, I didn't give anybody $3,000 to put a hit out on Carol. But come on, no. I gave him $3,000 to go away. Just like old boy was sitting up there talking about, oh, yeah, he was supposed to give me 5, but he gave me 3. Then I went down there and apparently I got cold feet. He couldn't even say that with a straight face, and I just took the money and went somewhere else and partied. Then why, sir, after you took the money and went somewhere else and partied, went to another state, the state where Joe said that you were originally going to go, why would Joe not call you like, hey, what's up? Hey, is it done? Hey, where you at? Joe was glad you were gone because he gave you that $3,000 to go to the other state, but you try to make it seem like he gave, you know what? Calm down. They played Joe. I don't like how they did my boy, but you know what? It all was Joe's. Joe brought it on himself the way he came at Carol. Good old Carol. Since we talking about facts, let's talk about another fact. Carol got rid of her first husband. I don't know how she did it, if he's up under the septic tank or if she just chopped up the body. And I'm gonna tell you what really was like, okay, there she go. Now she's, you know, she just incriminated herself. Carol was like, I mean, they said that I put him inside of the meat grinder. It was like this big. His hand wouldn't even, you know, fit inside the grinder. I'm like, Carol, girl, how you know his hand ain't fit in the grinder? Because you tried to put it in there and them fingers got jammed and she had to snatch the hand out. That's what happened. But, you know, allegedly. So anyway, we know Carol is full of it. And then Carol sits up there and she has a sway about her. You know who Carol reminds me of? Do y'all watch, let me think. Good Girls. Is that it? Good Girls. Okay, I don't feel like looking and stopping this video, so I'm gonna just keep rolling. But y'all know, in Good Girls, the one woman, she has all those kids, and she was leaving the stepdad, went outside, put her kids inside the car, turned the music up, and then backed into the guy, her husband, and ran him over on an accident. And then went forward and then backwards again, and then forwards and backwards again, and then just got out, and you know, she chopped him up, put him inside the deep freezer, and would just be in there acting like, you know, open up the deep freezer, get a pack of hot dogs, see his head, and kind of bury it down it, like just the real like, oh, Stepford wife type of role. That I get. That, see, Carol gives me that type of tease. She's very like, oh, you know, everything is just so perfect. How could I hurt my husband? How could I do so? First of all, Carol, you the same one who sat up there and said, yeah, she makes everything seem fairy tale like, you know, fairy tale-listic, when we know that's not the truth. Like, the truth is, you were walking on the side of the road, and you know, little Miss Mary Mac, some guy pulled up to her and was like, get inside the car. She's like, I'm not getting in the car. He rode around the block, get inside the car again. I ain't getting in the car. He rode around the block. Now he's like 40, 50 years old. She's in her 20s. What? You thought that was a good idea to get in the car with him? Like, first of all, your decision making is not that great. You're telling us that you're with an abusive guy, and your child is obviously with him. But what I see is you can't be too afraid of this abusive husband, because she told us that she got inside the car and all of a sudden they wind up in a hotel. We just spent the night together. You can make it sound as fairy tale as you want to, but she was thought boxing. So she got inside the car. They did what they did in the hotel. She said we were together ever since. Then they go fast forward a little bit. And she says that she was still with her husband after that night of meeting him. She was with her first husband for 4 more years. Oh, okay, so you were playing mistress for 4 years. And you were cheating on your husband. Like, okay, Carol, you're not as innocent as you're trying to come off. And I knew it in the first episode. She was going through and she was looking at the little plaques. Her husband was just walking behind her. And she's like, oh, you're following me again. I was like, oh, she nasty. She real nasty. Yeah, she got rid of her first husband. He's gone. But anyway, I think the whole thing took a turn when Joe was going so hard at Carol and she won that $1 million suit against him. Once she won the money against him, it was just like he was so far in the hole, there was really no way to get out. And because Carol's nasty, you know, Carol's husband was like, look, we can come to a solution. Let's work this thing out. But see, Carol's so nasty, she couldn't work it out. Carol just wanted to keep going hard and hard and hard. She didn't realize you've already won the battle. Not, you know what I mean? Actually, you've won the war. Just let it go. So I think she ripped everything out of Joe by you know, going after his mom, going after this, going after that. But at the end of the day, she could not have done that had Joe not been sitting up there sticking papers in his mother's face for her to sign. So Joe brought all this upon himself, but that was what really took the turn. So he was desperate, and that's when Jeff swooped in, and Jeff was like, don't worry, I got you. And I think that Jeff and Joe kind of had a little something going on too, because they did say that Jeff and his woman swung. They didn't say which way they swung, but we knew that they swung. So I think he swung Joe's way, and Joe was just like enamored. And Jeff has this way. Jeff walks like money, talks like money. Unfortunately, he has no money. So I think that threw off Joe. Joe was like, wait a minute, hold on. You know, once everything started to come out, he's like, okay, so he really is not who I thought he was. That big old penthouse he had, he doesn't even own it. He was just renting. You know, this and that and that and this. Everything just started to show that Jeff didn't have the money that Joe thought he did. But see, when you a shyster and you walk and talk a certain way, you don't necessarily have to have the funds, because you can swindle somebody out of the funds. Now you have them. So that's what happened. When it's all said and done, the kingpin behind all of this is Carol. And I'm going to tell you, see, Carol didn't necessarily want Joe to go out of business, or my guy Doc Antle, none of that, Antle, whatever his name is. They didn't want him to go out of business, because the thing is, Carol was doing the same thing that they were doing. She was just doing it better, because see, she was doing it with the people who are quote unquote right on her side. Carol does not have a business without Doc Antle and Joe and people doing, you know, the illegal stuff. Because okay, Carol's not breeding them. She's not breeding the cubs, but she would not have a sanctuary if people were not breeding them. So she was getting over on the system the same way, but hers was just from the guise of, oh, I'm helping. at the end of the day, Carol was the only one who was not paying her people anything to work. She wasn't giving them, you know, at least Joe was giving them old sour meat. You know, he was trying to feed them. Carol wasn't giving them nothing. You had Doc, he's giving certain women houses, and the other ones, I mean, you may get a little $100 here and there every week, but he was giving them something. Carol wasn't giving her people anything. Just come in here and help. You know, you're a volunteer. And if you get to this level, you know, she reminded me of a pyramid scheme. It kind of seemed like she was running a pyramid zoo scheme, because if you're at this level, you can get to this level by working this hard. Once you get there, you can get here by working this hard. Oh, you made it to the top. Nope, you're not at the top, because this is light blue. Light blue. The top is dark blue, so you're almost to the top, you know what I mean? Like, then we split off. Like, I said, oh, Carol's a real pimp. She's the one. And like I said, she would not be able to do what she does if there are not people breeding these cubs. So once you put all of the breeders out of business, Carol has no animals that she can come in, swoop in, and rescue. So she's out of business. She didn't really want Joe to go down like that. She's just petulant in her way. And you could tell because she got rid of her first husband. And it seemed like if that second one didn't fall in line, she would have got rid of him too. But anyway, what really bothered me was when, I'm going to tell you what part really, really bothered me. When they were doing the interviews and they had Travis's mother up there. And she's like, I just don't know how my son got to the place where he was at. What? You're doing the interview and you're high as a kite. You're at his funeral and you're high beyond belief. Why are you confused that your son got to where he was? He looked like he was following in your footsteps. Like, you led him down that path. Only difference is he went a little bit further than you did. That's the only difference. So, you know, he went down the path and lost his life. So I don't understand how you don't understand. But anyway, Joe was like, okay, I don't want everyone to look at me like I'm the, you know, the pedophilistic man that I am. So let me invite his mother to the next wedding. So he went and got him another one. He went and got another little you know, PYT named Dylan this time. Dylan was cute. Now, the thing that I didn't understand is, why would the mother get in the interview and be like, oh, it was 2 months after my son's death and now he replaced my son? Did you not know that when you got the invitation in the mail? I mean, were you not aware that you were going to a wedding that was supposed to replace your son in his life? Like, I'm sorry, Carol, I mean, whatever her name is. I'm sorry, Dylan's mama, but you were going to a wedding. So you can't go to the wedding and be like, oh, it's just, I can't believe it. Like, I don't want it to look like I approved of what he did. You did approve, or you would not have been standing there. Stupid. Moving on. Rick Kirkman. I'm like, okay, I liked Rick. Rick was, you know, well, y'all already seen this, so y'all know who Rick is. If you didn't see it, make sure you check it out. Let me tell you about Rick. Rick went through that MM situation too. He had the meth mouth going on. I'm like, okay, we started out, and his skin. Ooh. Rick was doing good. He was looking good. And when he first got to the ranch, then, well, the zoo, whatever they call it, when he first got to wherever he was at, he was doing fine. Then, I don't know, he started hanging out with Joe, and they started hanging behind the scenes. Next thing you know, his mouth started looking a little bit like John's. He started looking like John by the mouth. I was like, okay. And he also, the way he talked had changed. Because Rick, in the beginning, he could speak well. And then after, by like the last episode, I was like, oh, Rick's teeth are starting to look crazy. He still had them all, you know, he's a step ahead of John. He still had all his teeth, but the way they were looking, he probably would have been better off if a couple would have fell out. So yeah, I'm like, okay, they all got the meth mouth going on, but apparently you can see that's not Joe's, you know, first line of defense. He don't run straight to, you know, that situation, because he don't have the MM going on. But you can see him tweaking throughout the video, or well, throughout the episodes. I'm like, okay, so he's getting high too, but he's not getting high on what they getting high on. So yeah, I'm gonna tell you my best, like, out of the whole thing, the best line was like Tim Stark when he was sitting up there talking about Doc. He was, like, when we was talking about Doc Anthony, he was like, listen, I don't even care how you tame these animals. I want to know how you tame these women. Because they say Doc gets the ladies, y'all. Doc gets the ladies. And I can see why. Like, I guess I can't really see why, but I can. If you are, like, of a, what can I get out of this type mindset, then that's the perfect situation. So, you see, Joe had all the little boys on lock, mentally on lock. And then Doc had all the little girls that were, you know, not quite there mentally on lock. So, then they had this one woman. She's interviewing. And I'm like, oh, okay, so she ran away. Kind of like, you know, how like when the Amish leave their people and then, you know, they get out and they start doing these videos and try to give like undercover. And back in the day, how they used to, what was that, 2020 or Dateline, they used to go in and hidden cameras and see how they live. Yeah, so she's giving the back behind the scenes stuff of how Doc ran things. And I was like, she is so stupid. She gonna have nerve to say, you know what, and I had to made me get breast implants and I got them because that was the only way that I could get 3 days of sleep. You know what? We done talking to you. Next, James Garrett. James Garrett is my dude. Because when I tell you, James Garrett seemed like he was good and disgruntled. He was the one who did all of this. I think he got with Jeff, and somehow they were like, okay, after talking to Tim, Jeff was like, all right, I can snatch his zoo away from him, but I got to figure out a way. James Garrett was like, listen, I got my own problems going on, but if we can concoct a story and somehow bring it full circle and pin this thing on Joe, Joe's so stupid he can't get out of it. And they got years of Joe talking about how he wants to get rid of Carol and how the way he's gonna do it. All we gotta do is just make everything fit nicely into this little puzzle. So Garrison was really the mastermind behind this whole thing, in my opinion. Unfortunately, the mastermind got masterminded by Jeff, because once again, I will tell you, first Jeff went after Joe, then Jeff went after Garrison, and then Jeff went after Tim. So I don't know where Jeff is right now, but you know, Jeff should be locked up somewhere. I'm really hoping that that's how this thing all comes out. But yeah, this whole show, when it's all said and done, Joey got set up. Joe should not be in jail. Not like that. I mean, yeah, okay, he shot a couple of tigers and buried their bones. I get all of that. But the way they did my boy is just dirty. Like, why would y'all do Joe like that? But I understand, because Joe made it easy for them, and then he got tangled up messing around with Jeff. If he would have just kept Jeff out the equation, I think Joe would have been good. It would have been, you know, he would have had all these people on his head like that. And it seemed like as soon as his whole crew got an opportunity to turn on him, they did. There's a lesson in that, y'all. Well, I'm about to get up out of here. Make sure you guys subscribe to my channel, hit the blue bell for notifications, thumbs me up, and comment down below what y'all thought about the Tiger King, because yeah, that show is crazy. All right, y'all, deuces.